Welcome back to the questions based on jurisprudence. There is first question. What are the two main aspects of legal methodology? Legal reasoning, that is applying the law, and a legal interpretation, that is constructing the law. What are some examples of private law, contract law, property law, torts, and a commercial law? How do legal systems differ? They vary between jurisdictions and are studied in comparative law. What is the main characteristic of civil law systems? Laws are codified and consolidated by a legislature or central authority. What is socialist law? Socialist law refers to the legal systems in communist states such as the former Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China. Why do some scholars argue that socialist law is distinct from civil law? Because it incorporates Marxist-Leninist ideology, including the subordination of the judiciary to the executive ruling party. What is legal syllogism and which legal system does it dominate? Legal syllogism is a method of applying the law that it dominates civil law systems. Which legal method is particularly used in common law systems? Reasoning by analogy. What are some examples of rules used in legal interpretations? Linguistic interpretation, teleological interpretation, systemic interpretation, the golden rule, and the mischief rule. What is a key feature of common law system? Judges create a binding case laws through precedent, which can be overturned by higher courts or legislatures. How does religious law relate to secular law? Religious law has historically influenced the secular law and is still used in some religious communities and states. What is the meaning of jurisprudence? Jurisprudence refers to the theoretical study of philosophy of law, exploring its nature, scope, purpose, and application. What does analytical jurisprudence examine? It seeks to answer, what is law? What are the major approaches to jurisprudence? The major approaches to jurisprudence are analytical jurisprudence, normative jurisprudence, historical jurisprudence, sociological jurisprudence, natural law, legal positivism, and a CLS. That means critical legal studies. What did Edward H. Levy identify as the basic pattern of legal reasoning? Reasoning by example or comparing outcomes in cases with similar legal questions. What did Justice Sotomayor caution about legal reasoning? That it is not a mechanical or strictly linear process. What is jurymetrics? The application of quantitative methods such as probability and statistics to legal questions. What does analytical jurisprudence focus on? Analytical jurisprudence focuses on the structure and the logic of legal systems, dealing with the legal concepts like rights, duties, and the nature of law. What does normative jurisprudence study? It asks, what should law be? How does normative jurisprudence differ from analytical jurisprudence? Normative jurisprudence examines the moral and ethical aspects of law, focusing on justice, fairness, and what the law ought to be, whereas analytical jurisprudence is concerned with defining and clarifying legal concepts. According to Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, how is legal authority established? According to Thomas Hobbes' work Leviathan, legal authority is established by individuals collectively giving up their rights to govern themselves and authorizing a central authority. What are the main legal institutions in industrialized countries? Independent courts, representative parliaments, an accountable executive, the military and police, bureaucratic organizations, the legal profession, and the civil society. Which political philosophers advocated for the separation of powers? John Locke, in his work Two Treatises of Government, and Baron de Montesquieu, in his work The Spirit of Laws. What is historical jurisprudence? Historical jurisprudence studies the development of law over time, examining its origin, evolution, and the influence of historical, cultural, and social factors. Who argued that law is a system of rules? H.L.A. Hart. What does sociological jurisprudence emphasize? Sociological jurisprudence focuses on the relationship between law and society, analyzing how laws function in practice and the impact on social and economic conditions. How did Monte's view of government differ from Thomas Hobbes' theory in his work Leviathan? Montesquieu supported separation of powers, while Thomas Hobbes advocated for a centralized absolute authority. What additional branches of government did Sun Yat-sen propose in the Republic of China? The control yuan for auditing oversight, and the examination yuan, that is for managing public employment. What concern did Max Weber raise about the modern state power? The expansion of military, policing, and bureaucratic power creates accountability challenges that earlier political thinkers did not foresee. What role does the legal profession play in society? It helps ensure people's access to justice. What is the central belief in natural law theory? Natural law theory holds that law is based on unchanging moral principles derived from nature or divine sources. What is civil society in relation to law? Civil society refers to the social institutions, communities, and partnerships that form the political basis of law. How does legal positivism define law? Legal positivism asserts that law is a set of rules enacted by sovereign authority, and its validity depends on its source rather than its moral content. What is the key idea behind a critical legal studies, that is CLS? CLS challenges traditional legal thought and argues that law is influenced by power structures, questioning its fairness and objectivity. What is the philosophy of law commonly called jurisprudence? What is the role of judiciary? The judiciary consists of judges who mediate disputes and determine outcomes. What is an apex court? An apex court is the highest judicial authority in a country, such as the Supreme Court in the United States or the Bundesverfassungsgericht in the country Germany. Which court can overrule national laws in a European Union countries? The European Court of Justice. What is the role of European Court of Human Rights? It allows citizens of Council of Europe member states to bring human rights cases before it. What landmark case in the US demonstrated the judiciary's power to overrule unconstitutional laws? Brown versus Board of Education. Who defined the law as the command of a sovereign backed by the threat of a sanction? John Austin. How did Jeremy Bentham define jurisprudence? Jeremy Bentham defined jurisprudence as the art of applying the laws of nature to the practice of man, emphasizing a utilitarian approach focused on social utility. What is the doctrine of precedent and where does it apply? It allows courts to create a law based on past decisions and is used in common law countries. What is parliamentary sovereignty and which countries follow it? Parliamentary sovereignty is the principle that an unelected judiciary cannot overturn laws passed by a democratic legislature as seen in the UK, Finland and in New Zealand. How is the judiciary in communist states differ from other systems? It is often considered part of the executive or subordinate to the legislature. What was John Austin's definition of jurisprudence? John Austin defined jurisprudence as the science of the law, viewing law as a command issued by a sovereign authority and enforced by sanctions. What is the role of courts in many Muslim countries? They determine whether state laws comply with Sharia law. What is a legislature? Legislature is a body responsible for making laws in a country. Give examples of legislatures in different countries. The Houses of Parliament in UK, Congress in the USA, Bundestag in Germany, Duma in Russia, Parlamento Italiano in Italy, and Assemblée Nationale in France. What is the difference between unicameral and bicameral legislatures? A unicameral system has one legislative house, for example China or Israel, while a bicameral system has two houses, for example US Congress. What is the main role of the lower house in a bicameral system? It represents small constituencies and is usually directly elected. How do upper houses differ in different systems? In a federalist systems, for example US and Germany, they represent states, while unitary systems, for example France, they may have a different voting system. What is the main justification for bicameralism? To act as a house of review and prevent arbitrary government action. How does a bill become a law? It must be passed by a majority in both the legislative houses, often after multiple readings and amendments. What is an entrenched constitution and how does it affect the legislation? An entrenched constitution requires a special majority for changes, making legal amendments more difficult. Who typically leads the legislative process? In a parliamentary systems, members of parliament, and in presidential systems, the executive branch. What is the central argument of natural law thinkers like Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas? They argue that law is derived from universal moral principles and should align with objective moral truths. What was Ronald Dawkins' view of law? Ronald Dawkins described law as the interpretive concept aimed at achieving justice. According to Joseph Ross, what is the role of law? Law is an authority that mediates people's interests.